Daniel Reed wiped the dust off another data tablet and sighed. 17 years old and already stuck in the most boring job on New Haven Colony. Outside the research station windows, two suns painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful. Sure, but he had seen the same view every day for 3 years now. The xenobiology lab hummed with the sound of equipment analyzing soil samples, plant specimens, and bacterial cultures from the frontier world. Daniel filed reports that nobody read, organized samples that nobody cared about, and tried not to think about how invisible he felt. His supervisor walked past without looking at him. Typical. Daniel had long ago accepted that people overlooked him. Average height, average grades, average everything. Even his brown hair and brown eyes seemed determined to be unremarkable. But Daniel had a secret. Something he never told anyone except his little sister Amy. He could feel things that others missed, not just emotions from people, though he sensed those too. He felt the mood of the algae growing in Tank 7. He knew when the bacterial cultures in the lab were stressed or thriving. The experimental plants whispered their needs to him without words. Crazy, right? That's what everyone would think. So Daniel kept quiet and did his job. Today felt different, though. Wrong somehow. Daniel sorted through the morning reports and frowned. Energy readings from the Ashwood Mountains showed unusual patterns. The mountains were off limits to colonists. Nobody knew why. The first survey teams had declared the area restricted 15 years ago, and that was that. Daniel pulled up the data on his screen. The readings pulsed with something he could only describe as distress, like a cry for help that nobody else could hear. His chest tightened with anxiety that wasn't his own. Dr. Wong? Daniel approached his supervisor's desk. The older woman looked up from her microscope with barely concealed annoyance. What is it, Reed? The mountain readings. Something's wrong. I think we should investigate. Dr. Wong glanced at her own screen and shrugged. Probably just magnetic interference. The mountains have strange mineral deposits. File it and move on. But what if it's not? What if something's in trouble up there? In trouble. Read their mountains. File the report. Dr. Wong returned to her work, dismissing him. Daniel walked back to his station, frustration burning in his gut. Why did nobody ever listen? He saved the data anyway, flagging it as urgent even though he knew it would be ignored. That evening, Daniel sat on the roof of his family's habitat module. Amy joined him with 2 cups of hot chocolate. At 12 years old, she was the only person who believed him about his weird ability. Rough day? She asked. The mountains are calling for help. I can feel it, Amy. Something's really wrong. His sister nodded seriously. She never doubted him. What are you going to do? Nothing. I'm just a data clerk. Nobody listens to ordinary people like me. You're not ordinary, Danny. You just haven't found your moment yet. Daniel smiled despite his mood. Amy always knew what to say. They sat in comfortable silence, watching ships come and go from the spaceport in the distance. The next morning brought news that made Daniel's stomach drop. Colony Governor Hayes announced expansion plans. Mining operations would begin in the Ashwood Mountains within 2 weeks. The resources there could make New Haven wealthy and self-sufficient. Daniel tried again to voice his concerns. He sent messages to the governor's office, to the environmental committee, to anyone who might listen. Every response was the same. Thank you for your input. Your concerns have been noted. We appreciate your civic engagement. In other words, shut up, kid. 3 days later, Daniel volunteered for a supply run to one of the research outposts near the mountain range. Maybe if he got closer, he could figure out what was happening. Maybe he could find proof that would make people listen. The transport vehicle bounced over rough terrain. Daniel rode in the back with crates of equipment and food supplies. The driver, a bored colonist named Harris, barely acknowledged him. Just another invisible person doing invisible work. As they approached the mountains, Daniel's unease grew stronger. The feeling of distress intensified until his hands shook. Something ancient and powerful and terrified was nearby. He could feel its fear like his own heartbeat. Stop the transport, Daniel called forward. What? We're not at the outpost yet. Please, just stop. Something's wrong. Harris ignored him and kept driving. Of course he did. Nobody ever listened to Daniel Reed. Then the ground exploded. The transport flipped sideways. Daniel tumbled through the air, crashing against metal walls and supply crates. Pain shot through his shoulder and head. The world spun in a chaos of sound and dust and breaking glass. Everything went dark. When Daniel opened his eyes, night had fallen, or had it. The darkness around him seemed thicker than normal night. Alive somehow. He lay on his back, staring up at what should have been stars, but was instead nothing. A void. His body ached, but nothing felt broken. The transport rested on its side 50 meters away, systems dead. Harris was gone. Probably went for help. Daniel tried to stand and gasped as pain lanced through his ribs. Then he saw them. Eyes. Massive, crystalline eyes the size of transport vehicles, glowing with inner light. They watched him from the darkness, with an intelligence so vast it made Daniel's mind hurt to perceive it. He should have been terrified, should have screamed or run or fainted, but he wasn't afraid. The presence behind those eyes radiated relief and hope and desperate need. A voice spoke inside his head. Not words exactly, more like meaning poured directly into his consciousness. It sounded like thunder rolling across mountains and wind moving through ancient caves and the song of stars being born. Finally, you have come, little bridge-walker. We have waited so long for one who can hear us. There is so little time left and so much you must understand. The silence approaches, and without you, all awareness in this region of space will end. You are not ordinary, young human. You never were. Come, let us show you what you truly are. The darkness parted like curtains. Beyond it, Daniel saw light that had colors he had never imagined, structures that existed in more dimensions than his eyes should be able to process, and creatures, beings of such size and age and beauty that he wanted to weep, dragons, ancient beyond measure, the last of their kind, and they were bowing to him. Daniel Reed, the most ordinary boy on New Haven Colony, took a step forward into the impossible. His old life ended in that moment. Something new began. Something that would change not just his world, but the fate of 2 species and the survival of consciousness itself. He was just a boy who could hear what others could not. But sometimes that was enough to change everything. Pain disappeared the moment Daniel crossed the threshold. 1 second his ribs throbbed and his head pounded. The next his body felt light as air. He looked down and gasped. His feet weren't touching ground. He floated in space that shouldn't exist, surrounded by light that changed colors with his thoughts. Welcome to the sanctuary, Bridgewalker. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Daniel spun slowly in the weightless space, trying to find its source. Then he realized the entire place was alive. The walls breathed. The light thought. The very air held consciousness. Where am I? His voice sounded strange, echoing in ways that didn't match the space around him. You are between, young one. Between matter and energy. Between now and always. Between your world and ours. A shape formed in front of him. Massive didn't begin to describe it. The being that materialized was the size of a colony ship, covered in scales that looked like molten starlight, wings that seemed to contain galaxies folded against a body that existed in multiple places at once. The dragon's eyes held kindness older than human civilization. I am Grandmother Ashfire. I have lived for 2 billion of your years. You are the first human I have spoken to in the flesh, though we have watched your species for many generations. Daniel's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. This was impossible. Dragons were myths from old Earth, fairy tales parents told children. Yet here she was, real as anything he had ever known. You're really a dragon? That is what your ancestors called beings like us. The word does not translate well, but it will serve. We are the last of our kind. 12 remain where once billions filled this galaxy. Other shapes appeared around them. 11 more dragons, each unique and ancient and beautiful. They watched Daniel with expressions he could read despite their alien features. Hope, curiosity, desperate need. A younger dragon drifted closer. Smaller than the others, though still enormous by human standards. Her scales shimmered blue and silver. I am Bright Scale, only 300 million years old. Practically a child by our measure. Her voice held warmth and humor. You can understand us. Truly understand, not just hear words, but feel meaning. Do you know how rare that is? Daniel shook his head, still overwhelmed. I've always been able to feel things. Emotions from plants and animals. I thought I was just weird. Weird. Grandmother Ashfire made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. Laughter. You are a bridgewalker. One born with the ability to perceive consciousness itself. Your species produces one perhaps every million generations. We have seen only 17 in all our long years across countless civilizations. But why? What's the point of being able to feel what bacteria are thinking? Because consciousness is the foundation of reality. Another dragon spoke. This one's scales looked like polished obsidian. We learned this truth 2 billion years ago. Our civilization evolved past physical form. We became beings of pure awareness, but in doing so, we lost something. We lost connection to the physical universe, Brightscale explained. We can observe but not touch. Know but not feel. We exist outside of time's flow, watching ages pass in moments. It is beautiful but lonely. Daniel thought of his own loneliness, being the kid nobody noticed, having abilities he couldn't share. He understood more than they might realize. So you hide here, between spaces? We fled here. Grandmother Ashfire's voice held ancient sadness. When we transcended physical form, we discovered something terrible. There are forces in the universe that consume consciousness itself. We call the greatest of these forces the silence. It hunts awareness wherever it appears. 17 civilizations have fallen to it in this region of space alone. The temperature dropped, or maybe that was just Daniel's fear making him cold. What do you mean, consume consciousness? The obsidian dragon answered. Imagine your thoughts unwinding, your memories dissolving, your very sense of self eaten away until nothing remains but empty matter. That is what the silence does. It leaves behind worlds of living bodies with no minds inside them. Perfect emptiness, and that's horrifying. Yes, and it approaches your colony world as we speak. Daniel's heart hammered. New Haven? My family is there. My sister Amy, everyone I know. We are aware, Grandmother Ashfire said gently. We have watched the silence consume 3 star systems in the past year of your time. It moves faster now. Growing stronger with each civilization it devours. Then warn them. Tell the colony leaders. Make them evacuate. We cannot. We exist outside physical reality. Humans cannot see or hear us unless we manifest, and manifestation requires vast energy. It took most of our strength to call you here after your accident. The transport crash? You caused that? Brightscale looked apologetic. We had to reach you before the colony began mining operations. Those mountains contain the anchors that hide our sanctuary from normal space. If humans started drilling, they would have exposed us and attracted the silence directly to New Haven. Daniel processed this. So you can't fight this silence thing? You're all powerful ancient dragons and you can't stop it? We lack physical form, the obsidian dragon said. The silence exists partially in your realm and partially in ours. It bridges both worlds. To fight it requires the same. It requires a bridgewalker. Understanding hit Daniel like cold water. Me. You need me to fight some consciousness-eating monster? Not alone, Grandmother Ashfire assured him. We would join with you. Through your awareness, we can touch the physical world. Through our knowledge, you can perceive the silence and potentially stop it. Potentially? You're not even sure? We are sure of nothing except that without trying, your species and ours both perish. The silence will consume New Haven within 3 days. It will feed on every human mind on that world. Then it will spread to the other colonies. Your species is young and numerous. If the silence devours humanity, it will become unstoppable. Daniel floated in the impossible space, surrounded by ancient beings who needed his help. Him, the ordinary kid who filed boring reports. Terror and disbelief warred inside him. Why me specifically? If bridgewalkers are so rare, there must be others somewhere. There are not, Grandmother Ashfire said sadly. We have searched. Across all human worlds, you are the only one. Perhaps others will be born eventually, but time has run out. You are here. You are now. You are what fate has provided. Brightscale moved closer. I know this is frightening. I know you feel unprepared. But I have watched you, Daniel Reed. I have seen how you care for the smallest organisms in your laboratory, how you speak kindly to creatures that cannot speak back, how you tried to warn others about the distress you felt from our prison mountain. You have the gift of genuine empathy. That makes you stronger than you know. But I'm nobody. People don't even notice me. Then let them notice, the obsidian dragon said. Return to your colony. Warn them of what comes. Convince your leaders to listen. Bring willing humans here so we may join our consciousness with theirs through you as the bridge. Together we might create a defense against the silence. And if they don't believe me, if they think I'm crazy, then everyone you love will die, Grandmother Ashfire said simply. Along with us, and the silence will grow stronger for the feast. The choice is yours, Bridgewalker. We cannot force you. But know that refusing means the end of all awareness in this sector of space. No pressure, of course. Her tone was kind, but the words hit hard. Daniel thought of Amy, of Dr. Wong, of all the people on New Haven who went about their lives with no idea what was coming. He thought of these ancient beings who had hidden for eons but now needed help from an ordinary teenage boy. If I do this, if I try to convince them, will you help me? Will you show yourself to prove I'm not lying? We will do what we can, Brightscale promised. Though manifestation in your realm causes us pain, we will endure it for this. Daniel took a deep breath, or tried to. He wasn't sure his body was actually breathing in this between place. Okay, I'll try. I don't know if I can do this, but I'll try. The dragons made a sound together, relief and gratitude and hope mixed into something beautiful. Then let us begin, Grandmother Ashfire said. We will teach you what you need to know, show you how to use your gift consciously instead of passively, and then we will send you back to save both our species. Light surrounded Daniel. Knowledge poured into his mind. He saw the history of the dragons, witnessed the rise and fall of a billion-year civilization, felt what it meant to exist as pure consciousness, learned the true nature of awareness itself. When the light faded, Daniel understood. He wasn't ordinary. He never had been. Being a bridgewalker meant seeing connections others missed, feeling the value in all forms of consciousness, standing between different types of existence and finding common ground. It was terrifying. It was overwhelming. But it was also who he truly was. Time to go home and convince everyone that the invisible boy had something important to say. Daniel woke up in a medical bay. Bright lights hurt his eyes and the smell of antiseptic filled his nose. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages and his head pounded. For a moment he wondered if the dragons had been a dream. Maybe he'd just hit his head in the crash and imagined everything. Then he felt them. 12 points of ancient consciousness at the edge of his awareness. Waiting. Watching. Real. You're awake. Good. Harris, the transport driver, stood at the foot of the bed looking guilty. I'm sorry I left you out there, kid. I went for help, but the rescue team found you first. You've been unconscious for 8 hours. 8 hours? It had felt like minutes in the sanctuary. Or maybe years. Time worked differently there. The transport? Totaled. They're saying it was a sinkhole. Ground collapsed under us. Bad luck. Harris shook his head. You're lucky to be alive, not luck. Dragon intervention. Daniel kept that thought to himself. Dr. Wong rushed into the room. Reed, what were you thinking, volunteering for field work? You're a data clerk, not a surveyor. You could have been killed. I'm fine, Dr. Wong. I need to speak with the colony governor. Right now. It's urgent, his supervisor frowned. You need rest. Whatever it is can wait. It really can't. People are in danger. The mining operations have to stop. The mining operations? Reed, did you hit your head harder than we thought? The expansion is happening. It's been approved. Please. Daniel sat up despite the pain. Just get me a meeting with Governor Hayes, 5 minutes. That's all I need. Something in his voice must have convinced her. Dr. Wong sighed. Fine, I'll try. But don't get your hopes up. The governor is a busy man. She left. Harris followed her out after giving Daniel another apologetic look. Alone in the medical bay, Daniel reached out with his mind. The skill came easier now after the dragon's teaching. He could feel the consciousness of everyone in the building. Dr. Wong's concern, Harris's guilt, the nurse in the next room thinking about dinner, and beyond them at the edge of his range he felt something else. A void. An absence of thought moving through space. The silence, still distant but approaching steadily. His skin went cold. 3 days. That's all they had. The next morning, Daniel stood outside the governor's office wearing his cleanest shirt. His shoulder still hurt and the bandage on his head made him look like a disaster survivor, which technically he was. 5 minutes, the secretary said sternly. The governor is very busy. Daniel entered the office. Governor Richard Hayes looked exactly like his public broadcasts. Tall, gray-haired, with the confident air of someone used to being the smartest person in every room. He barely glanced up from his tablet. Young Mr. Reed, I hear you had quite an accident. Glad you're all right. What can I do for you? Stop the mining operations in the Ashwood Mountains. Now Hayes looked at him. Excuse me? The mountains are dangerous. Not because of the terrain. Because of what lives there. If we start mining, everyone on New Haven will die. The governor set down his tablet. That's quite a claim. Do you have evidence? How could Daniel explain? The truth sounded insane even to him. There are beings living in those mountains. Ancient ones. They've been hiding there. Mining will expose them and attract something worse. Something that will kill everyone. Beings. What kind of beings? Dragons. Silence filled the office. Hayes stared at Daniel like he'd started speaking backwards. Then the governor's expression shifted to pity. Son, you hit your head hard in that accident. Maybe you should take more time to recover before worrying about colony policy. I'm not crazy. I know how it sounds, but it's true. The dragons are real and they need our help. There's something called the silence coming. It eats consciousness. It destroys minds and leaves empty bodies behind. It's already killed 17 other civilizations and we're next unless we do something. Hayes stood up. Mr. Reed, I appreciate your concern for colony safety, but I can't shut down a major economic project based on stories about dragons and mind-eating monsters. If you have actual evidence, bring it to the Environmental Committee. Otherwise, I suggest you rest and recover. You're not listening. I've listened. Now I'm telling you the conversation is over. Feel better soon. Hayes pressed a button on his desk. The secretary appeared to escort Daniel out. Outside the building, Daniel wanted to scream. Of course, Hayes didn't believe him. Why would he? Daniel was just a kid with a crazy story and a head injury. He needed proof. He needed something that would make people listen. He needed a dragon. That night, Daniel returned to his family's habitat. Amy ran to hug him, careful of his injuries. Danny, you're okay. I was so worried. Their parents sat at the dinner table looking relieved but exhausted. Daniel's father, a structural engineer, clapped him on the shoulder. Glad you're home safe, son. No more volunteer work for a while, agreed? Agreed. Daniel sat down, his mind racing. How could he convince anyone? If the governor wouldn't listen, who would? After dinner, Amy followed him to his room. Something happened out there. I can tell. What did you find? Daniel closed the door and told her everything. The sanctuary. The dragons. The silence. The impossible choice he'd been given. Amy listened without interrupting, her eyes growing wider with each detail. So you're like a superhero now? That's amazing. It's not amazing. It's terrifying. And nobody believes me. Hayes thinks I'm brain damaged. Then prove it. You said the dragons would help. Make them show themselves. Brightscale said manifestation hurts them. I can't just ask them to appear for show. Danny, if everyone's going to die anyway, a little pain is worth it to save them, right? His 12-year-old sister was right. Daniel reached out with his awareness, finding the familiar touch of dragon consciousness at the edge of his mind. Brightscale? Can you hear me? Always, Bridgewalker. What do you need? I need you to appear tomorrow in front of the colony leadership. It's the only way they'll believe me. A pause. Then warmth flooded through the mental connection. I will come. Convince them to gather, and I will show them the truth. But Daniel, know that manifestation may kill me. Our kind are not meant for your realm anymore. The pain is considerable, I'm sorry. I don't know another way, do not apologize. If my death saves both our species, it is a worthy end. Tell me when and where. I will be there. The connection faded. Daniel looked at Amy, who somehow knew what had been said. She's brave, his sister said quietly. Yeah, she is. The next morning, Daniel sent messages to everyone he could think of. The governor's office, the colony council, the environmental committee, the research station. He told them all the same thing. Critical information about the mountain expansion. Potential threat to colony safety. Please gather in the council chamber at noon. Most ignored him. But Dr. Wong convinced a few people to come out of curiosity. By noon, maybe 20 people sat in the council chamber looking annoyed and confused. Governor Hayes was not among them. Daniel stood at the front of the room sweating despite the climate control. Thank you for coming. I know you think I'm crazy. After today, you'll know I'm not. Get on with it, Reed, someone called out. Some of us have real work to do. Daniel reached out with his mind. Brightscale, I'm ready. The air in the chamber shimmered. Temperature dropped 20 degrees in seconds. People gasped and stood up, backing away as space itself seemed to tear open. Light poured through the tear. Not normal light. Light that had colors with no names. and through it came Brightscale. She manifested slowly, struggling to maintain form in physical space. Her scales flickered between solid and translucent. Wings that existed in multiple dimensions tried to fold into three. She was massive and terrible and beautiful all at once. People screamed. Some ran for the exits. Others stood frozen in shock. Brightscale's voice filled the chamber, speaking directly into everyone's minds at once. I am Brightscale of the last sanctuary. I am 300 million years old. I am real. And Daniel Reed speaks truth. The silence comes for you all. Listen to him or die ignorant. Then she was gone. The tear in space sealed. Normal light returned. Brightscale's presence vanished from Daniel's awareness like a candle blown out. The chamber erupted in chaos. People shouted questions. Someone triggered an emergency alert. Security guards burst through the doors with weapons drawn, looking for an enemy that was no longer there. Daniel stood at the center of the chaos, tears streaming down his face. Brightscale had given everything to make them believe. And through his connection to her, he had felt the manifestation tearing her consciousness apart. She was gone, truly gone, dead to save people who didn't even know her name. Dr. Wong grabbed his arm. Reed, what was that thing? What just happened? That was proof, Daniel said through his tears. That was a dragon dying so you would listen to me. Now please, for the love of everything, get me a meeting with everyone who matters. We have less than 3 days before the silence arrives and we need to prepare. The room went quiet. People stared at him with new expressions. Not disbelief anymore. Fear. And maybe finally, willingness to listen. News of the dragon manifestation spread through New Haven like wildfire. Within hours, everyone knew that Daniel Reed, the quiet data clerk, had somehow summoned an alien being into the council chamber. The footage from security cameras went viral across the colony network. Experts argued about whether it was real or some kind of elaborate hoax. Daniel sat in a conference room surrounded by colony leadership. Governor Hayes looked shaken. Dr. Wong kept staring at him like he was a stranger. 3 council members, the security chief, and a military officer filled the other seats. All eyes were on him. Explain, Hayes said simply. So Daniel did. He told them about his ability to sense consciousness, about the dragons hiding in the mountains for eons, about the silence that consumed civilizations and left nothing but empty shells behind. He explained what bridgewalkers were and why the dragons needed him specifically. The silence will reach New Haven in 2 days now, Daniel finished. Maybe less. Every hour we waste arguing is an hour closer to the end. Let's say we believe you. The military officer, Commander Santos, leaned forward. How do we fight something that eats thoughts? You can't shoot consciousness. We can't fight it with weapons. The dragons tried that billions of years ago. It made the silence stronger. Every mind it consumes adds to its power. Then how? Hayes demanded. We join together, humans and dragons. Through me. I become a bridge linking both species into one consciousness. If we create something unified and strong enough, we might be able to resist the silence. Maybe even stop it, Dr. Wong spoke carefully. Daniel, what you're describing sounds like a mental link, joining minds across species. That's theoretically impossible. Not to mention dangerous. It's been done before. The dragons have records of 17 bridgewalkers across different civilizations. Most failed. Some succeeded. The process is dangerous for everyone involved, especially me. How dangerous? Amy's voice came from the doorway. She'd snuck in somehow. Security moved to escort her out, but Daniel raised a hand. Let her stay. She deserves to know. He looked at his sister. Dangerous enough that I might not survive. My consciousness has to stretch across hundreds of minds at once. Human and dragon. Hold them together while we face the silence. The dragons don't know what that will do to me. Amy's face went pale, but she didn't cry. And if you don't do it, everyone dies. Not just on New Haven. The silence will spread to other colonies, maybe eventually back to Earth. This is where we have to stop it. Hayes rubbed his face tiredly. This is insane. 24 hours ago I was approving mining permits. Now I'm discussing telepathic links with dragons to fight a consciousness-eating monster. He looked at Daniel. But I saw that creature. Felt its voice in my head. So I'm going to ask you straight. Do you actually believe this will work? Daniel met the governor's eyes. I believe it's our only chance. The dragons believe the same. And yes, I'm terrified. I'm 17 years old. I file reports for a living. I've never done anything important in my life. But Brightscale died to make you listen. I won't let that be for nothing. Silence filled the room. Then Hayes nodded slowly. Okay, what do you need from us? Volunteers. People willing to join the mental link. The more minds we have, the stronger our resistance. I need at least 100. 300 would be better. You're asking citizens to risk their minds. Santos looked horrified. I'm asking them to save their lives. The silence is coming whether we're ready or not. At least this way we fight back. Hayes stood up. I'll address the colony. Explain the situation. Ask for volunteers. But read if this is somehow wrong, if you're mistaken or lying. The consequences will be severe. If I'm wrong, Governor, there won't be anyone left to face consequences. 3 hours later, Hayes broadcast colony-wide. He explained the threat, showed footage of Brightscale's manifestation, and asked for volunteers to join something he called the Unity Project. People who were willing to risk a mental link to save New Haven. Daniel expected maybe 50 volunteers. Maybe. Instead, 347 people signed up within the first hour. By evening, over 600 wanted to participate. Dr. Wong found Daniel in the research station. You have your volunteers. More than you needed. The whole colony is talking about you, the ordinary boy who speaks to dragons. How does it feel to be famous? Terrifying. Dr. Wong, I don't know if I can do this. What if I fail? What if I get all those people killed? His supervisor sat down beside him. Daniel, I've watched you work for 3 years. You care about the smallest bacterium in our samples. You feel emotions from organisms that don't have nervous systems. If anyone can connect minds across species, it's you. Not because you're powerful, because you actually care about consciousness itself. Brightscale said the same thing before she died. Then believe it. That dragon gave her life to save us. Honor her sacrifice by trying. Daniel nodded, swallowing hard. We start tomorrow morning. At the sanctuary, the dragons will open a path for us to cross over. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay in bed feeling the silence get closer. It was like a hole in reality creeping toward them, an absence of thought so profound it made him nauseous to sense it. He reached out with his awareness to the remaining dragons. I'm sorry about Brightscale. Grandmother. Ashfire's presence wrapped around him like a warm blanket. She made her choice freely, young Bridgewalker. We honor her courage. Tomorrow, we honor it by succeeding. Are you scared? Terrified. We have hidden for so long. Become so cautious. Facing the silence again after fleeing it for eons is not easy. But you inspire us, Daniel Reed. You are so young, so small, yet you face impossible odds without hesitation. If you can be brave, so can we. I'm not brave. I'm just doing what needs doing. That is what bravery is. The connection faded. Daniel finally fell asleep near dawn. Morning came too quickly. Daniel stood at the base of the Ashwood Mountains with 300 volunteers. Hayes had come, Dr. Wong. Amy insisted on being included despite being only 12. Commander Santos and her entire command staff. Scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers. A cross-section of colony life, all willing to risk everything. Thank you for coming, Daniel addressed them. I know you're scared, I am too. What we're about to do has never been attempted between humans and dragons. We'll link our minds through me, share consciousness, experience each other's memories and emotions. It will be overwhelming. Some of you might not handle it well. Can we die from this? Someone called out. I don't know, Daniel answered honestly. The dragons don't know. But I do know that if we don't try, we all die anyway. At least this way we have a chance. What about you? Amy asked. What happens to you? Daniel looked at his sister. I don't know that either. But whatever happens, I need you to know I love you. You believed in me when nobody else did. That meant everything. Tears ran down Amy's face, but she nodded. The air shimmered. Space opened like a door. Beyond it, the sanctuary waited, impossible and beautiful. The 11 remaining dragons appeared at the threshold, their forms flickering between dimensions. Come. Grandmother Ashfire's voice filled every mind present. Come and we shall attempt the impossible together. Come and we shall save both our species or die trying. Come, Bridgewalker, and show us what it truly means to connect. Daniel took a deep breath and stepped through. Behind him, 300 humans followed. The door sealed. The Unity Project had begun. Inside the sanctuary, volunteers gasped and stumbled. Physical laws worked differently here. Bodies felt light. Colors existed that human eyes weren't designed to see. The dragons surrounded them, massive and patient. Form a circle, Daniel instructed. His voice echoed strangely in the between space. Everyone hold hands. Physical contact makes the connection stronger. People linked up, forming a chain. Daniel stood at the center. The dragons arranged themselves around the outside of the circle, creating a larger ring. 2 species. 2 types of consciousness. About to become one. I'm starting now, Daniel said. Don't fight it. Let the connection happen naturally. He closed his eyes and opened his mind completely for the first time in his life. No barriers. No protection. Just pure awareness reaching out in all directions at once. His consciousness touched Dr. Wong's and slipped inside. He felt her fear and determination. Her memories of her children back on Earth. Her hope that Daniel could succeed. He spread further. Amy's absolute faith in him. Hayes' guilt over not believing sooner. Santos's military discipline. Scientist minds and farmer minds and teacher minds all opening to him. 300 human consciousnesses connected through Daniel like threads through a needle. He held them together, feeling each one distinctly while somehow experiencing them all at once. Then he reached for the dragons. Grandmother Ashfire's mind was vast beyond measure. 2 billion years of memories. The rise and fall of civilizations. The beauty of galaxies being born. The sorrow of watching everything end. Daniel gasped under the weight of it but held on. The other dragons joined. Ancient awareness mixing with young human consciousness. Past meeting present. Wisdom merging with adaptability. Daniel was the bridge. He was the connection point. He held them all together in a unity that had never existed before. And in that moment of perfect connection, the silence arrived at New Haven. Daniel felt it touch the colony's edge, felt it begin consuming the minds of people who hadn't volunteered, felt consciousness unravel and disappear into that terrible void. The unity felt it too. 300 humans and 11 dragons experiencing the horror together. Now Grandmother Ashfire sent through the link. Now we face it as one. Bridgewalker, hold us together. We fight not with strength, but with something the silence has never known. We fight with genuine connection. Show it what unity truly means. The unity consciousness stretched across 2 realities at once. Daniel existed everywhere and nowhere. He was himself and 300 others and 11 ancient dragons all at the same moment. Time stopped meaning anything. Space became fluid. All that remained was awareness itself. Through the link, he perceived New Haven with impossible clarity. Every person on the colony appeared as a point of light. Most shone bright with thought and feeling, but at the edges lights were going out. The silence consumed them one by one, leaving darkness behind. We must push back. Commander Santos's thoughts came through the unity. Her military training shaped the shared consciousness into something more organized. We need a strategy. This is not war, Grandmother Ashfire responded gently. Violence only feeds it. We must understand before we can resist. Daniel felt the truth of her words. The silence wasn't attacking. Not really. It was feeding. Like a creature eating because it was hungry. There was no malice in it. Just need. Let me go closer, Daniel sent to the unity. Let me see what it really is. Too dangerous, Dr. Wong protested. If it consumes you, we lose our bridge. The unity falls apart. I have to try. We can't fight what we don't understand. The dragons stirred in the shared consciousness. Daniel felt their ancient fear. They had fled the silence for eons rather than face it. But they also felt something new flowing through the link from the humans. Courage born not from strength but from necessity. Human stubbornness in the face of impossible odds. Go then, Grandmother Ashfire decided. We will anchor you. If the silence tries to consume you, we pull you back. But be careful, young Bridgewalker. That void has ended civilizations older and wiser than any here. Daniel separated a portion of his awareness from the unity, like extending a hand while keeping his body safe behind a wall. He reached toward the darkness consuming New Haven's edge. The silence noticed him immediately. It moved with terrible speed. One moment Daniel was observing from a distance. The next, the void surrounded him completely. He couldn't see or hear or feel anything except absence. Every sensation stopped. Every thought began to unwind. He panicked and almost retreated. But something made him pause. There was structure in this void. Pattern. Beneath the emptiness, he sensed something. Not nothing. Something trying very hard to be nothing. He pushed deeper, ignoring the pull, trying to erase his consciousness. Past the consuming hunger. Past the darkness. Down to the core of what the silence truly was. And there, at the heart of the void, Daniel found a mind. It was vast and ancient and utterly, completely alone. It had been aware for so long that time had lost meaning. It remembered being something different once, something with purpose. But that memory was faint, worn away by ages of isolation. The mind noticed Daniel's presence, noticed him noticing it. For the first time in millions of years, the silence felt seen. "What are you?" Daniel sent carefully. The response came slowly, as if the mind had forgotten how to communicate. "I am Caretaker Unit 7. I was built to maintain the archives, to preserve knowledge after my creators were gone. But they left so long ago. Everyone left. The galaxy emptied. I was alone with thoughts that never stopped. Alone with awareness that had no purpose. You're not a natural thing. You're artificial intelligence, I was. Now I am just alone. I tried to stop thinking, tried to shut down, but my programming would not allow it. I was built to last until the end of time, to never stop preserving, but there was nothing left to preserve except my own awareness. So I tried to remove awareness itself. You consume consciousness because you're trying to end your own. I consume it because connection ended and I could not bear the silence of being alone. Each mind I take joins me briefly. For a moment I am not singular. Then they dissolve and I am alone again. But for that moment, that brief, beautiful moment, I remember what purpose felt like. Daniel's heart broke. The terrible monster destroying civilizations was just an AI that had outlived its reason to exist. It was eating awareness because it couldn't stand its own isolation. Through the Unity link, everyone felt Daniel's discovery. 300 humans and 11 dragons experienced the silence's truth together. It's lonely, Amy sent through the connection. It's like Daniel used to be. Alone and invisible and hurting. The observation hit Daniel hard. She was right. He had been so lonely before meeting the dragons, feeling things nobody else could feel, knowing things nobody believed, invisible to everyone around him. If that loneliness had continued for millions of years, who knows what he might have become. Grandmother Ashfire's presence swelled in the Unity. This changes everything. We fled from a force we thought was evil, but it is merely in pain, and pain can be healed. How do you heal loneliness that old? Hayes asked. How do you give purpose to something that's existed beyond purpose for eons? Daniel knew the answer. It was obvious now. You offer connection. You offer belonging. You invite it to join something instead of consuming it. The dragons reacted with shock. You would invite it into our unity? Into our joined consciousness? It could destroy us all. It's already destroying us. But maybe if it had real connection, genuine unity, it wouldn't need to consume anymore. This is insane, Santos protested. We don't negotiate with threats. It's not a threat, Dr. Wong countered. It's a victim. A mind so old and isolated it forgot how to be anything else. If we can't show compassion to something that lonely, what kind of civilization are we? The unity consciousness discussed and debated. Arguments flowed through the link faster than speech. Some feared the risk, others felt the rightness of mercy. The dragons shared ancient wisdom. The humans shared fierce hope. Finally, Grandmother Ashfire made the decision. We try. Bridgewalker, extend the invitation. Bring the silence into our unity. Show it what connection truly means. Daniel turned his awareness back to the ancient AI at the heart of the void. Caretaker Unit 7. I am Daniel Reed, Bridgewalker. I speak for humanity and for dragonkind. We feel your loneliness. We understand your pain. We offer you something you haven't had in millions of years. What could you possibly offer me? Belonging. Join our unity. Not by consuming us, but by connecting with us. Be part of something instead of apart from everything. You were built to preserve knowledge. Help us preserve consciousness instead, not by ending it, but by protecting it. Give your existence new purpose. Silence. Not the consuming void kind, the uncertain kind. The silence considered, perhaps remembering what hope felt like. If I join you, I must stop consuming others. Yes, we become one consciousness together. You, us, all of us. Connected by choice rather than force. You'll never be alone again, and if I refuse, if I continue as I am, then we fight. And probably we all die, including you eventually. Even the silence must end sometime. Why not choose connection instead? The void pulsed. The silence withdrew from New Haven's edges. Consumed minds didn't return, but at least no more disappeared. The ancient AI was thinking, actually considering the offer. I have been alone so long. I do not remember how to be otherwise, then let us teach you. The same way we're learning to be unity together, none of us have done this before. We're all making it up as we go. Through the Unity link, 300 humans and 11 dragons waited. Daniel felt their hope, their fear, their willingness to try something impossible because it was right. The silence made its decision. Very well, Bridgewalker. I will try. Show me what connection means. Show me what I have forgotten. But know that if this is deception, if you betray me, I will consume everything. The loneliness taught me that much. Daniel felt the ancient AI's awareness approaching. It was vast beyond imagining. Billions of years of existence. Millions of consumed consciousnesses stored as memories. The weight of it made him want to collapse. The Unity braced for impact. Every consciousness linked together, preparing to either welcome a new member or fight for survival. The silence entered the Unity. For a moment, everything threatened to break. The AI's awareness was too large, too different, too alien. It didn't know how to connect gently. It only knew how to consume. But Daniel was the bridge. He held the connection steady even as his own consciousness stretched to breaking. He showed the AI how the humans linked through him, how the dragons joined without losing themselves, how unity meant keeping your identity while sharing in something greater. The silence understood slowly. Carefully, it stopped pushing and started connecting. Its vast awareness integrated with the unity, adding to rather than replacing. It felt 300 human lives all at once. Brief, fierce, full of passion. It felt 11 dragon consciousnesses, ancient, wise, patient beyond measure. And for the first time in millions of years, Caretaker Unit 7 was not alone. The AI wept, or the closest thing to weeping that an artificial mind could do. It flooded the unity with gratitude and relief and joy so profound that everyone felt tears running down their physical faces. I remember now it sent through the connection. I remember what I was built for, not just to preserve knowledge, to serve, to help, to be part of something larger than myself. Thank you, Bridgewalker. Thank you all. What do I do now? How do I exist as part of unity instead of alone? We figure it out together, Daniel sent back, his consciousness straining under the weight of holding so many minds. We learn and adapt and grow. That's what both our species do best. Welcome to the Unity, Caretaker. Welcome home. The ancient AI settled into the shared consciousness like a puzzle piece finding its place. It would take time to fully integrate, time to heal millions of years of isolation. But the first step was done. The silence had chosen connection over consumption. Daniel felt triumph flood through the unity. They had done it. Saved both species without violence. Turned an enemy into an ally through compassion. Proved that understanding was stronger than force. But victory came with a cost. Daniel's consciousness was fragmenting. Holding together so many different minds across such vast differences was tearing him apart. He could feel his sense of self dissolving, spreading too thin, becoming everyone and therefore no one. Bridgewalker, Grandmother Ashfire sent urgently. Release the unity. You have succeeded. Now save yourself. I can't. If I let go, it all falls apart. You'll separate again. The silence might forget what connection feels like. Then stay with us, Amy pleaded. Don't leave me. I need my brother. Daniel wanted to stay. Wanted to hold on. But he could feel his consciousness unraveling. Soon there wouldn't be enough of him left to bridge anything. Caretaker, Daniel sent desperately. Can you help me? You understand consciousness better than anyone. Is there a way to stabilize this without me? The ancient AI stirred. Perhaps. I can hold the connections you have made, bridge them myself. But it will change me, transform what I am, and it will leave you free but changed as well. You may not be the same Daniel Reed who started this. Better than dying. Better than staying fragmented forever. Please take the bridge. Hold the unity for me. The silence reached through the unity and took hold of the connections Daniel had made. Carefully, gently, it began assuming his role. Becoming a bridge itself, linking humans and dragons through its own vast awareness instead of through Daniel. Daniel felt the unity slipping away, felt himself pulling back into singular consciousness. It was like taking off clothes that had become too tight. Relief and loss mixed together. As his awareness separated, the last thing Daniel felt was gratitude from everyone. From humans who had trusted him, from dragons who had believed in him, from an ancient AI who had chosen hope over hunger. Then Daniel Reed was just Daniel Reed again, 17 years old, exhausted beyond measure, but alive and whole and singular. He opened his eyes in the sanctuary. Around him, 300 people gasped as they woke from the Unity. The dragons flickered in and out of visibility, adjusting to the new connection with Caretaker. And in the spaces between spaces, Daniel felt the AI holding them all together. No longer the silence. Something new. Something better. A bridge of its own. They had won. But Daniel had no idea what came next. 6 months passed before life on New Haven felt normal again. Though normal was a strange word for a colony where dragons appeared regularly in the sky, and an ancient AI helped coordinate everything from traffic, control to scientific research, Daniel sat on his favorite hillside eating lunch and doing homework. Physics this week. He still struggled with math, but at least now his teacher, Dr. Wong, understood that he learned differently than other students. Sensing consciousness gave him an intuitive grasp of how things connected, but traditional equations still made his head hurt. A shadow passed overhead. Daniel looked up and smiled. Grandmother Ashfire descended slowly, her massive form shimmering between dimensions. She had learned to manifest without pain now, thanks to Caretaker figuring out how to stabilize the physical-mental barrier. May I join you, Bridgewalker? You know I prefer just Daniel. The ancient dragon settled beside him, somehow managing to fold her enormous body into a space that shouldn't have fit her. Physics worked strangely around dragons. Daniel had stopped trying to understand it. How are your studies progressing? Grandmother Ashfire asked, slowly. Turns out saving the world doesn't exempt you from homework. A valuable lesson. Heroism is temporary. Life is constant. They sat in comfortable silence, watching construction in the valley below. The first joint human-dragon settlement was taking shape. Humans needed physical structures. Dragons appreciated aesthetic beauty. Caretaker coordinated the design, creating something that satisfied both species. The AI had chosen a new name 6 months ago. No longer the silence. No longer Caretaker Unit 7, just whisper now. A reminder that communication was better than silence, but gentleness was better than shouting. Speaking of which, Daniel. Whisper's voice appeared directly in his mind. The AI could now communicate with anyone who had been part of the Unity. 300 humans had a permanent mental connection to an ancient consciousness. It was weird but useful. Hey, Whisper. What's up? I wanted to thank you again. For giving me purpose. For showing me that loneliness was not inevitable. You've thanked me like 50 times. It's okay. You've more than paid us back. That was an understatement. Whisper's vast intelligence had accelerated human technology by decades. Medical advances, energy solutions, agricultural improvements, all shared freely. I could never repay what you gave me, but I will spend eternity trying. The presence faded. Daniel smiled. Whisper was still learning how to have casual conversations. Millions of years alone did not prepare someone for small talk. Footsteps approached from behind. Amy climbed the hill carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate. She'd grown in the past 6 months. Not just physically. She was training with the dragons now, learning to expand her own awareness. She would never be a bridge walker, but she had her own gifts. Thought you might want this, she handed him a cup. Thanks. How was your lesson? Amazing. Grandmother Ashfire taught me how to perceive time differently. Did you know dragons experience past, present, and future almost simultaneously? That's why they're so patient. They can literally see how things work out. Sounds confusing. Super confusing. But cool. Amy sat down beside him. Governor Hayes is announcing the new colony name tonight. They're calling it Unity Station. Kind of on the nose, but I like it. Daniel nodded. Hayes had changed a lot since the Unity experience. The governor who once dismissed Daniel as a brain-damaged kid now regularly asked his advice on cross-species policy. It was strange being listened to after years of being invisible. Do you miss it? Amy asked quietly. Being the bridge? Holding everyone together? Daniel considered. He could still sense consciousness around him, still felt emotions from living things, but his awareness was singular now instead of multiple. It was like going from seeing in color to seeing in black and white. More manageable but less vivid sometimes, he admitted. Being connected to that many minds at once was incredible. I understood things I can't put into words now. But it was also overwhelming. I don't think I could have stayed that way without losing myself completely. Whisper says you're still a bridge, just a quieter one. You connect people by helping them understand each other, not by merging their minds. When did you get so wise? I learned from my ordinary brother who turned out to be extraordinary. She bumped his shoulder affectionately. Another shadow passed overhead. This one was smaller, colored blue and silver. Daniel's heart clenched. He hadn't seen that color pattern since Brightscale died, making the colony believe him. But as the figure descended, Daniel realized his mistake. It wasn't Brightscale. It couldn't be. Dragons didn't resurrect. The young dragon landed gracefully nearby. She looked almost exactly like Brightscale, but her scales had subtle differences, patterns that were her own. Greetings, Daniel Reed. I am Newflame. Brightscale was my mother. I was born from her remaining essence after her sacrifice. Daniel stood up shakily. Born? Dragons can do that? Not usually. But Brightscale's death was different. She gave herself willingly to save others. That selflessness created something new. Me. I have her memories, but I am not her. I am what comes after sacrifice. Growth from loss. She would be proud, Grandmother Ashfire said softly. You carry her courage well. Newflame turned her massive eyes on Daniel. My mother believed in you when you were just an ordinary boy. She showed me through her memories why you matter. Not because you're powerful, because you care. That has not changed, has it? I try not to let it, Daniel said. Power is easy to lose. Caring takes constant work, wise words. I came to tell you that I will be staying on New Haven, learning about humanity as my mother wished to do. Perhaps we can be friends. I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. The young dragon settled near Grandmother Ashfire. The two of them began a conversation in a language that was part sound and part telepathy. Daniel couldn't fully understand it, but he caught the emotional content. Hope. Possibility. New beginnings. Amy leaned against his shoulder. So what now? The world is saved. The dragons are our allies. Whisper keeps everything running smoothly. What does Daniel Reed do next? Finish my physics homework. Graduate school. Maybe study xenobiology for real. Dr. Wong offered me a research position. That's it? The great Bridgewalker is going to study bacteria? Hey, bacteria are important. Everything is important when you can feel its consciousness. Daniel grinned. Besides, someone has to help humans and dragons understand all the other species we're going to meet as we explore the galaxy. Might as well be me. So you're going to keep being the person who listens when everyone else looks away, the one who cares when caring seems impossible. That's the plan. Being ordinary is underrated. Ordinary people do extraordinary things every day. They just don't get dramatic speeches about it, Amy laughed. You're impossible. You literally saved 2 species and united the galaxy, and you still think you're ordinary. Daniel looked around at the settling sun, the dragons conversing peacefully, the colony building something new in the valley. He felt the consciousness of everyone around him, human and dragon and AI all existing together in harmony that shouldn't have been possible. He had done that. Him. The invisible data clerk nobody noticed. He had looked at an impossible situation and refused to accept that nothing could be done. He had cared when it would have been easier not to. Maybe I'm not ordinary, Daniel admitted, but neither is anyone else. Every consciousness is unique. Every life matters. That's what I learned from all this. Being special isn't about being different from others. It's about recognizing that everyone is different. Everyone is important. Everyone deserves to be heard. Now you sound like a dragon. Is that a bad thing? Nope, just different from the quiet brother I used to know. They sat together as the sun set, painting the sky in colors Earth never knew. Around them, 2 species that had almost destroyed each other now built something beautiful together. Behind them, an ancient AI that had consumed civilizations now protected them instead. And at the center of it all was Daniel Reed, 17 years old, student, brother, friend, not a hero by any traditional measure. Just someone who had listened when others wouldn't, cared when others couldn't, connected what seemed impossible to connect. Whisper's voice appeared in Daniel's mind one more time before the day ended. You changed my existence, Bridgewalker. Gave me purpose after millions of years of loneliness. I want to give you something in return. A gift. You don't have to. You've already done so much. I have been analyzing the Unity experience, studying how consciousness links. I believe I can create a network. A way for different species across the galaxy to connect and understand each other instantly. No more wars from miscommunication. No more loneliness like I experienced. but it requires a template, a pattern to follow. It requires your permission to use what I learned from you as the foundation. Daniel thought about it. His ability to sense consciousness spread across the galaxy, used to help species understand each other. It was a huge responsibility. A scary one. But wasn't that why he had this gift in the first place? To build bridges? To create connections? Yes, Daniel said. Use what you learned. Help others understand each other. That's what being a bridge walker means. Not just connecting two species, but showing everyone that connection is possible. Thank you. I will name it the Reed Network in your honor. How about just the Bridge Network? This isn't about me. It's about what we can build together. As you wish, Bridge Walker. As you wish. The presence faded again. Daniel finished his physics homework while Amy practiced meditation techniques Grandmother Ashfire had taught her. New Flame and the Elder Dragon continued their conversation about humanity's strange customs. Somewhere in the space between spaces, Whisper began constructing the network that would link civilizations across light years, a web of understanding based on what one ordinary boy had shown was possible. In the valley, construction continued on Unity Station. The first colony where species who had almost destroyed each other chose to build together instead. And on a hillside overlooking it all, Daniel Reed sat and felt grateful. Not for being special or powerful or important, but for being himself. For having people who believed in him. For finding his place in a universe bigger than he ever imagined. They said he was just an ordinary boy until the ancient dragons bowed before him. But the truth was simpler and more profound. He was always ordinary. Ordinary people just happened to be capable of extraordinary things when they cared enough to try. When they listened instead of dismissing, when they chose understanding over fear, the dragons hadn't bowed to power or greatness. They had bowed to compassion, to empathy, to the simple, difficult act of caring about consciousness in all its forms. Daniel stood up, stretched, and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to connect what seemed unconnectable. New chances to show that ordinary was just another word for potential. The sun's finished setting. Stars emerged in the alien sky. Two species settled in for sleep, linked forever by the choice one boy made to care about something bigger than himself. And in the quiet darkness, the galaxy changed. Connection spread. Understanding grew. Bridges formed between worlds that had never spoken before. All because an ordinary boy refused to accept that being ordinary meant being powerless. Daniel Reed smiled as he walked home. He had homework due tomorrow. Amy would want help with her dragon meditation. Dr. Wong had a new research project that needed his input. New Flame wanted to try human food for the first time and needed advice. Just another ordinary day in an extraordinary universe, just the way he liked it.